evening and welcome to another SMC Talks. I am Jessica Brinker Foster, pronouns she and her, and an alumna from the class of 2008. If you're new to SMC Talks, this programming is brought to you by the Alumnae Programming Task Force of the St. Mary's College Alumni Association Board of Directors. The mission of this task force is to plan, promote, and assist with the implementation of programs for alumni focused on enriching alumni's engagement with the college and one another. The SMC Talks speaker series, modeled on TED Talks, was created with this mission in mind. It is made available to the St. Mary's community and features alumni who can provide diverse and unique perspectives through their professional accomplishments, personal interests, or life experiences. The Alumni Association Board of Directors recognizes the need to expand access to alumni programming around the country, particularly to those of you who do not have an organized club in your area. Committee members wish to bring to greater attention to unique, dynamic, diverse alums who make up the St. Mary's community. We hope this programming can bring alumni together in a new way in order to hear one another's stories, learn from each other, and strengthen our alumni community. I encourage you to nominate a fellow alumna on our website, alumnae.stmarys.edu. SMC Talks has a page within that alumni page of the website where you can register, nominate, and watch previous events. For the event tonight, as attendees, your cameras and microphones are turned off, as this is a recorded event. Once our panel discussion ends, we will have time for a question and answer session. Therefore, feel free to type questions into the chat feature throughout the presentation. Those will not be visible to other attendees. Also, please be reassured that this is a safe space to ask questions and learn. We know that technical difficulties can occur. Therefore, if you drop off or get disconnected, please feel free to rejoin us. Tonight, we will hear from the college's first affinity group, Pride SMC, and the path to this group's creation. Without further ado, I would like to introduce tonight's moderator, Kristen Lynch. Kristen Sullivan Lynch, pronouns she, her, graduated from St. Mary's in 1991 with a degree in English and a minor in music. After several years as a music director in Chicago churches, she joined the development team at St. Mary's and has been at the college for the last 5+ years. She lives in Chicago, Illinois, and has 3 children, and her daughter, Ellie Lynch, is graduating this year from St. Mary's. Kristen, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Jessica. Good evening and welcome to our panel discussion, The Path to Pride SMC. As Jessica said, my name is Kristen Sullivan Lynch, and I am so excited to be here tonight. I first met Jacqueline Leskovec at reunion in 2019. She was handing out Le Mans rainbow stickers, and I was driving all of our fun alums around in golf carts. Her enthusiasm around creating a safe space for the LGBTQ+ conversation on our campus and among alums was contagious and inspiring. It is a true honor to be here tonight with the officers of Pride SMC, the first official affinity group for St. Mary's College. Tonight, the founders of Pride SMC will discuss their personal experiences of being queer on campus, exploring how the campus culture has evolved over the decades, and share the path they took to create an official alum group. Before I introduce you to the panelists, I just want to reiterate the ground rules for tonight's discussion. Please be reassured that this is a safe space to ask questions and learn. All questions will be respected by everyone. For this session, questions and comments will be moderated privately and will be posed for you anonymously. Now on to the main event. Tonight, our panelists are Adrienne Whisman, who serves as the treasurer of Pride SMC, a 27 graduate of St. Mary's. Adrienne majored in humanistic studies and history with a minor in women's studies. She currently works for the Grand Haven Area Community Foundation as the Philanthropic Services Associate, helping connect individuals and nonprofit organizations through grants and philanthropy. Her work allows her to see and participate in the efforts and collaborations between organizations and community members to improve all aspects of life for all people. Currently, she lives with her cat, Toffee, in Muskegon, Michigan. Cristina Bueno serves as the secretary of Pride SMC. She is a member of the class of 2013 and has a BA in anthropology and archaeology and a master's in museum education. During her time at St. Mary's, she served as the president of the Straight and Gay Alliance. Cristina lives in the Chicagoland area with her tuxedo cat, Chandler, and currently works as youth programming coordinator for the Deerfield Public Library. Jacqueline Leskovec is the vice president of Pride SMC. Her pronouns are her and she. Jack is a proud member of the class of 1974, and her major was psychology. She is the network coordinator for the network of the National Library of Medicine and has spent a professional lifetime in healthcare and health information access. She and her partner, Joanne, legally married in 2014. Jack and Joanne, their 4 cats and dog, live in a Chicago workers' cottage, which they have been rehabbing for the last 11 years. And last but not least, Mallory Price is the president of Pride SMC. Mallory graduated from St. Mary's in 2010 and returned to her hometown of Chicago, where she obtained her master's degree in social work from the University of Chicago as a National LGBTQ Point Foundation Scholar. She spent many years working in nonprofits in Chicago and received a 30 Under 30 award from the Windy City Times for her work serving the LGBTQ+ and HIV/AIDS communities. She was a part of the Gala ND SMC leadership team, which launched the first LGBTQ scholarship fund for Notre Dame and St. Mary's students. She currently owns a psychotherapy private practice on the south side of Chicago, where she provides queer affirming services and is a member of the World Professional Association for Transgender Health. Very accomplished alums. Thank you for being here tonight. I'm going to turn it over to our presenters, who begin with a timeline of the LGBTQ+ milestones through the years at St. Mary's, and will highlight some of the social and political events happening at the same time to give some perspective to their experiences through the years.
Thank you, Kristen. Mallory and I are going to talk a little bit about the social, political, and the individual events that happened at St. Mary's. First of all, I'd just like to highlight, we're not going to talk about everything on this slide because there's a lot, but you might want to look into it later on. First thing I'm going to talk about is that it was actually in 1791 when France and its colony Haiti first became the modern country to decriminalize homosexuality. And then in 1844, Mallory?
That is when St. Mary's College was founded. Go ahead, Jacqueline.
Okay. And then in 1897, we have the first gay rights organization was founded in Germany.
And if we fast forward a while to 1973, that is when Jacqueline was at SMC as an undergraduate student.
And that was the same thing that happened with homosexuality removed from the DSM-2 as a mental illness, 1973.
So Jacqueline then graduated the year after in 1974. And the next big event that we have recorded about St. Mary's isn't until 1997 when the Alliance of Lesbian, Bisexual, Straight, and Questioning Women was formed. And that was kind of the first official group on campus. I'm not sure that they were actually official, an official student organization, but it was an organization that was active on campus at that time.
A couple of things happening politically in the United States. President Clinton signed Don't Ask, Don't Tell in '93. There was the Defense of Marriage Act, and that was passed also by Clinton in 1996. And for those of you who may remember, it was in 1997 where Ellen DeGeneres comes out on Time magazine, "Yep, I'm gay."
And so the next event at St. Mary's is around 2005. The St. Mary's Board of Governance approves the first Straight and Gay Alliance on campus. This was a really important event because the approval of that allowed the organization to start receiving funds, just like any other student organization on campus.
And then Mallory graduates from SMC, followed by the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
Mhm. And then Cristina also graduated from St. Mary's in 2013. And that is the first year that we officially became part of the Alumni Association on the agenda, so that we could start having regular meetings and notifying all alumni about the LGBTQ plus affirming panels.
I just want to say that if you are not seeing the speakers, you need to click on the single pin, the speaker panel there. Up, if you go up to the right, there are 4 little icons. Click on the single one. Following that, well, we had the Supreme Court finally legalize the same-sex marriage with Obergefell and Hodges in 2015. And right before that, my partner and I got married legally, and both of our names are entered into the Courier for an update.
Mm-hmm. And it's a little bit behind that, but in 2014 is when St. Mary's also extended same-sex partner benefits to faculty and staff. And then Adrienne actually in 2015 became one of the first recipients of the Gala ND SMC scholarship. So Gala ND SMC was a partnership between St. Mary's and Notre Dame, and both those alumni associations were working together and established a scholarship fund to support students. And we are lucky that Adrienne is one of the first students to have received that.
In 2017, we also have the Court of Appeals that rules that the Civil Rights Act prohibits workplace discrimination against LGBTQ plus employees. And also St. Joseph County, the Human Rights Ordinance was made into law.
Mm-hmm. And in 2017 is when Adrienne graduated from St. Mary's. And then in 2019 is when a lot of stuff started happening. Jacqueline joined the reunion Pride panel. I think myself and Cristina were on the Pride panel that year as well. And we kind of started talking a lot more and decided we wanted to have our own St. Mary's alumni group, and kind of took off from there, started meeting on a regular basis. And want to add anything, Jacqueline?
No, it brings us up to today.
Yeah, it was a lot of hard work from Jacqueline and Adrienne, from Cristina, and especially we really want to point out Mary Porter, Professor Mary Porter, who has been tremendous in helping keep people connected over the years and really moving the panel forward and organizing so much on campus. So we don't want to forget to mention all of her contributions too. So
absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So now I think we're gonna start talking about what is Pride SMC. So we were working together over the last few years, and we want to kind of share with you a little bit more about what we have been doing.
Take it away, Cristina.
Thank you. Yeah, so what is Pride SMC? Well, we are Pride SMC, and it is an alum group for LGBTQ plus alums of St. Mary's College and their allies. We are very excited and lucky to be the first official St. Mary's Alumnae Association affinity group, which is super exciting. So our official founding is this year, 2021. We are an official group recognized by the college. And we really got our start as a Facebook group. That was kind of how we all came together and started talking. I think all of our plans were through like Facebook Messenger and then eventually Zoom calls and everything. In this image, you can see the four of us with Katie Conboy at the opening for the new LGBTQ+ center at St. Mary's. If you could go to the next slide. So our formation and mission, the four of us are the founding officers. So we all, we've all done work together on a lot of the things that we had to do to become official and get off the ground. Of course, we had to pick who was going to kind of do what. Adrienne did an amazing job as our treasurer, setting up a bank account for us and doing all kinds of financial stuff that is like over my head. So thank you so much, Adrienne. I was like, I cannot do that. But what's great about us being official and having a bank account is that will allow us to really fulfill part of our mission, which is we want to be able to support both current students and other alums. That's what's driving us. We want to be able to be there as, moral support, give advice, but also to be able to eventually provide the kind of financial support that as alums we would love to be able to provide scholarships and support, things for the center on campus and programming from the student group. Some of the things that we've already done is, of course, create swag that we took to the opening of the center. We had buttons and stickers and flags and all kinds of goodies. Our lovely logo that you'll see, we have both like a Le Mans Tower version and our French cross version, and they were created by a friend of mine who is a teaching artist from South Florida. So she really took kind of our vision and created a couple different versions for us. And I know the buttons were a huge hit. And we plan to make more and create other swag for those who are interested. Who doesn't like swag, right? I think I'll go into more of our history later, but I'll turn it back over to Kristen.
Thanks, Cristina. I love the swag. I love the buttons and the stickers. I mean, it's been a lot of fun to spread some of that around campus, and I know they've been well received by the students. And it's one of the most popular buttons and stickers to have. So I just want to thank you for all the work that you all put into that timeline. Just to put it in some of that historical perspective, I mean, so much has happened, and really, it's been in the most recent time period, it's just kind of exploded. But I know that our audience tonight would like to hear more about your personal experiences. And the first question that I'd like to ask each of you is what was it like for you when you were a student at St. Mary's?
Well, as an alum from the last millennium, let's turn the Wayback Machine to the early 1970s. And we see the first issue of Ms. Magazine, the realization that feminism and the psychology of women were actual fields of study. I had a sense that I was different when I was in high school, and I came out when I was a student at St. Mary's. Young love, how exciting is that? But it was a different kind of love that I had ever known before. But I soon understood that the rest of the world, including my family and professors, did not feel the same way. I learned that I needed to hide that part of myself, and that was actually very painful.
Thank you, Jacqueline. I will go next. I graduated in 2010, and for me, it was still something that you didn't really talk about. I came from a all-girls Catholic high school. I loved my experience at St. Mary's, except for the part about my sexual orientation, because it was not a very welcoming community. I had many people say pretty horrible things. I was not out myself on campus until my last year. And people oftentimes, even when I would stand up as an ally, people would make a lot of really derogatory comments and one time an RA told me that if myself and the other people who wanted to support the faculty's same-sex benefits, if we didn't like it, then we should leave, and that it wasn't in alignment with Catholicism. And I think it was hard for me as someone, I still identify as a Catholic, and I think that it was just very difficult to be able to be empowered and discover all these great parts of myself, but not be able to share that part of myself with people.
So I'm class of 2013, and I wasn't really out at St. Mary's, or I don't really know what people thought. I didn't really ever think, I don't know. I never even really knew how I identified. It wasn't something that I ever really thought about. And I think I just assumed I was straight because that's kind of the default that we're all taught, right? And so I identified as a straight ally. My sophomore year, a friend of mine invited me to join SAGA, which was the Straight and Gay Alliance, the student group at the time. And it seemed fun, everybody who was there seemed really nice. And so I got involved with SAGA. It was through SAGA, so through the student organization, that I was introduced to the whole spectrum of identities that are out there, and eventually found my own identity. I was president of SAGA for 2 years, and I tried my best to show students they belong through programming. I remember one of my professors writing something on a paper of mine that they were handing back, like, "Yay, SAGA," after an Observer article came out promoting our Pride Week events, or some kind of events that we were having. So that was really nice. I always really felt that my professors were very open and accepting. And that's absolutely one of my favorite things and favorite memories from St. Mary's, is a lot of the faculty and staff. I personally never really experienced much negativity from fellow students, maybe because I presented as straight. But unfortunately, obviously the same can't be said for other students, for friends of mine who were in my year or a few years before, or a few years after, who were maybe more out or recognizable on campus. I know there were instances of student-on-student harassment, and unfortunately, some did not find much help or support in administration with dealing with those instances. And so that, as I learned more, heard stories from friends, that definitely made me sad. And so I feel like I was lucky that I kind of skated under the radar and didn't personally experience that. But I've definitely kind of had my eyes open to, there were, stuff going on campus that wasn't great.
Yeah, so I'm the baby of the group. Graduated 2017, and then I apologize for my cat, she's needy. I had very similar experiences to Cristina. I kind of already knew going onto campus that I was queer, but and I was pretty confident about it. Most of my, all my friends were supportive. My professors were supportive. They would write me, letters of support, stuff like that. I feel like the disconnect was just with the whole, I didn't always feel supported by the school as a whole. And I did have the same thing with friends who they were, harassed or called slurs, had their property damaged, stuff like that. And there wasn't really anything done to sort of resolve those issues. So the people during my time, we didn't really feel seen on campus, and we didn't really feel heard or respected on a holistic level. But at the same time, it's really encouraging to see how much progress has been made since I've graduated. It's been 4 years, going on 5, and oh my God. And so just knowing the school is actually showing overt support now it's wonderful.
Thanks, Adrienne. That sort of like leads right into my next question, actually. How do you think the campus culture has evolved over the decades? I mean, you just sort of beautifully stated it, but
Yeah. So like, obviously, as you could sort of see with the progression, we've sort of noticed that it's become generally more open, especially on individual one-on-one interactions. You know, like you could find those little pockets of support and stuff like that. But there was always sort of, especially earlier, the stigma of, you know, you didn't really fit as the stereotypical SMC student. So therefore you weren't, your position there wasn't as valid or seen as like, as worthwhile or something. But as I said, it's really interesting to sort of, it's very heartening to see how the school has actually deliberately embraced the concept of inclusion and diversity and living up to the idea of justice and all of that, to sort of bridge the gap between who St. Mary's actually is and what the stereotype is, because that by sort of creating these deliberate movements to create inclusion, where, you know, inviting in a new definition of what it means to be St. Mary's.
Yeah, I think that's very well said, Adrienne. I think that when Jacqueline was going through the timeline, I was also thinking of just like our personal experiences too, that are so much more than just the little boxes on there. But I think that something Jacqueline said was that professors weren't even really supportive when Jacqueline was there. And I feel very fortunate that by the time in 2010, but before I graduated, so I was there 2006 to 2010, that most of my professors were actually really supportive. They were kind of like a safe haven. Also, so was the Office for Civic and Social Engagement. Those were like the two, between going to, especially the women's studies professors, or like Mary Porter, and then also the Office for Civic and Social Engagement. Those were really welcoming spaces. I think that the administration, but outside of those, the Office of Civic and Social Engagement was not very open. There was a few times that campus ministry did collaborate with us on different projects, but even when we would like do chalking the sidewalks, or like I remember we like made t-shirts that said I'm St. Mary's and I'm an ally. There were students and some administrators that were really upset by that. And so I think that just there really has been so much change, even from the time that Cristina and Adrienne were there. I know that there was an incident when Adrienne was a student, and it was called out, and it was actually posted on the Facebook page because someone had written about the student like should leave St. Mary's. And I felt like that was a really good sign when I looked at the comments and that people were supporting that student, and that nobody had written anything derogatory. I was really surprised, because I think that if it had been 10 years before, or even 5 years before, that would have been a different story. And so I also think that now, when we just went to the grand opening, it was a really incredibly healing experience. And Cristina, myself, and Adrienne, and then one of my good friends who was also a social work major, Jen, we went through the halls of Lamont, and there were so many kids that had pride flags or progress flags on their doors. And no one had ripped them down, and no one had written anything negative on there. And I can't imagine ever putting that on my door when I was a student, because I know that it would have been taken down, or someone would have written like a passive aggressive message on my whiteboard if I had done that. And so I think that it was really healing to see that other students are embracing the changes and each other, and also that it was so explicit that the college really has changed, that it is accepting now that there is this space on campus, because I think that the administration didn't actually really speak out and say that enough before. So I'm gonna stop talking, but I think that we finally have it full circle, that pretty much everyone is on board, even the administration, with saying that this is a safe place for everyone, and that all of the students, like Sister Manaliva said, we promise you discovery of yourself and discovery of your place in the world. And I think that now everybody can actually make that come true, because they don't have to be afraid of expressing or sharing who they are.
That was really beautifully put, Mallory. Thank you for sharing. That was wonderful. Cristina, you mentioned that you might go a little more into the history of how Pride SMC was formed, and it sounds like you all had to do a lot of legwork with the college, as well, to really get this thing to move forward. So can you go a little more into that?
Sure, yeah. I'll start by saying I think the seed for our group was really planted in the unofficial alumni group known as GALA ND SMC, which is the Gay and Lesbian Alumni of Notre Dame and St. Mary's College. Dr. Mary Porter, who is a professor at St. Mary's, professor of mathematics, was very involved in this group and wrangled many of us to get involved as well, both as students and then as alums. Both Mallory and I received scholarships from GALA to attend Campus Pride, which was a student leadership program over the summer, different years. And as we mentioned, Adrienne was the recipient of the first St. Mary's tuition scholarship from GALA. So that's kind of how the idea of an LGBTQ alum group kind of began. Around 2018, there was talk of kind of maybe St. Mary's needs its own LGBTQ plus alum group to kind of better serve our students and our alums, I guess better represent St. Mary's in that aspect. As I said, GALA was unofficial. They had tried to become official, I think, for a few years at Notre Dame without much luck. And so we were all brought together by Mary Porter again. And so she's our great wrangler. And so she kind of really got the conversation started, like, should we pursue creating a St. Mary's group? And maybe would we be able to become official in some capacity at St. Mary's, where the group wasn't having any luck at Notre Dame? So in 2018, May of 2018, we started a Facebook group to kind of, gather interest and get the word out. But it wasn't really until 2019, about a year later, that alums from who lived in the Chicagoland area, including Mallory, Jacqueline, and I, met at the Harold Washington Library. And we discussed the growth of the group, kind of what we wanted to do. I remember we talked about, okay, how our alum groups started, like how do you become official? And I remember looking through the website, and the process seemed like most of the alumni groups from St. Mary's are geographically based. And so it didn't seem like there was really, like, affinity groups didn't exist back then. So it was kind of like, I don't know that we would be able to become an official group, because we don't want to, like, there's already like a Chicago East, Chicago West group that we're not looking to like come together based on geography. So it was in that year in 2019 that through the Facebook group, we sent out a survey. We wanted to come up with a name for ourselves to kind of, I guess, be on an unofficial group. And so that's how we became Pride SMC. And we did our name change and got some swag all ready for the 2019 reunion panel, which Mallory and Jacqueline presented at. and we handed out all the swag, and Kristen, I'm glad you got some swag that year. Sometime in either 2020 or 2021, the four of us, Mallory, Jacqueline, Adrienne, and I, kind of started talking on Facebook about how to move the group forward, wanting to make sure that people were still interested in this and pursuing this. And then thankfully, we had the opportunity to become an affinity group. So I believe that was part of the new strategic plan. And then President Convoy coming on board. And it just seemed like the perfect time. I remember when the strategic plan came out, the whole, big focus and section on diversity and wanting, and I believe that it explicitly mentions like LGBTQ students or alums or both. And so we were like, this is awesome. Like, I think we can actually do this. And then with the affinity group option, we were able to, go down the list. How do we apply? How do we do this? And we did it. And so we are an official group now, did everything that we had to do. And now we're kind of off the ground and running and, still sorting out through some details, but kind of really excited about the future of our group, but also of St. Mary's and what this just means for current students and future students and all the past alums.
Thank you, Cristina. And actually, you just led me into my next question, which is, what do you hope for the future of St. Mary's College? Which you just said, I think. So if the other panelists would like to join in and give your hopes for the future of St. Mary's and where this this wonderful affinity group can grow and help more people in our community.
So from my perspective, and probably for most alumni, St. Mary's has a wonderful history of educating women and supporting them to become the people that they are. And I trust these positive steps with the Division for Inclusion and Equity and the work that Dr. Regina Hill has been doing, and the opening of the LGBTQ Center on campus strengthen the college moving forward. And as you can tell from the timeline that we showed before, there have been a lot of efforts by students to help the college become more inclusive, diverse, and welcoming. And I think as alumni, we can help support the students and the college to be the best that they can be.
Yeah, like the deliberate steps forward into having this more inclusive culture, more inclusive campus, I really want to see it grow and prosper and have just sort of show how going to St. Mary's can look like me, can look like Jack, can look like Cristina, Mallory, anybody, and sort of encourage that growth, because there's so much potential within the school, and there's so many alum around the world that just love St. Mary's and that want to see it continue to grow and create future leaders and future, innovators. And so being able to even have just a little part in that, in, as an affinity group, but also as an alum, and to sort of see the school reach its own potential and exceed its own potential is really an amazing thing, because it's the embracing the inclusion and differences, the new perspectives and new ways. It's like allowing our traditions and our history to continue to blossom and thrive in a new generation and in future generations. So I hope that St. Mary's can continue to be that sort of beacon of education for individuals like us and individuals not like us.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to open it up for Q&A to our audience. I do have one question that we've sort of been answering the questions that have been posed as we've been going along. One of the questions I want to make sure to answer, though, is somebody asked where the center is on campus. And I can answer that question. It is on the second floor of the Student Center. It's right by the Office for Student Equity, and it's a beautiful, warm space. We do have some photos that will pop up later of some of that area, and it's really a wonderful, wonderful space. So that's where that is. And I also, oh, Jack's got some pictures. There we go. That is by the same artist that did that amazing portrait of Sister Madaleva that's hanging in Le Mans right now. It's his version of the flag. So one question we did have, do you think the lack of support was more from the administration or from residents' life?
It was kind of both. Residents' life and the fact that, you know, you would submit a complaint or you'd say, hey, this happened to me, and nothing really came of it. But also just on a systemic level, honestly, like the conversations we would have on campus were, you shouldn't make an effort for that because the administration won't support you because they don't see the value in supporting that. And just like the struggle back and forth of, you know, like what are the college values didn't always align with us as individuals. Like they didn't include us within the values sometimes. So like there was that. And like when you went to go, like I had a couple conversations with administrators my senior year, you know, and to sort of see how we could be more inclusive on campus, like both from like a racial perspective as well as a queer perspective. And a lot of the times it felt like they would listen to us, but they weren't really either comprehending or they weren't seeing the full actual issue sometimes. So, you know, they either knew it existed and weren't really able to do a lot, or they didn't think that they could do a lot or should do a lot. So it was just like, at least when I was there, it's probably different for a few others, but there was just that almost like there was a feeling that they didn't feel the urgency of trying to address the issues.
I also think even this is like a concrete example. I remember in like 2009, we were like, everybody was meeting to like request the student funding from the student board, and there were administrators there, like other college staff in student affairs, and I wasn't even there requesting the money for Saga, even though I was the president. I was requesting it for another group, but the person who was requesting it for us, they started questioning that person, and then even the administrators were like, oh yeah, we don't know if this group should receive funding, like this isn't really in alignment with the college. And it was like put on the table, although the board of governance had passed that in 2005 that that the group could exist on campus. But even in 2009, 4 years later, people were really like even questioning if we should receive funding as a group. So
well, I do have one comment from a former Board of Trustees member that he served on the SMC board from 2012 to 2021 and want to apologize for the times that you did not feel support from us. The St. Mary's board unanimously passed a resolution to make clear that we would not tolerate discrimination against the LGBTQ+ community. I am proud that the SMC board is on record on this critical issue.
thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't want to keep monopolizing and talking so much, but I do want to say, I really think that all of us were deeply touched at the opening. Like, I thought that maybe it was going to be just kind of like a ploy that like we're being recognized sort of, so that we would just like be quiet or something. But like, I was so shocked, and it was a very healing experience. And I appreciate all of the people who showed up for that. And there's so many people who have reached out to me now, and people are so supportive in a way that I would have never imagined before. And so thank you for all of the people who were doing things over time that maybe we weren't recognized or we didn't see the end result of it just or right away, but we appreciate that people like the board member that just left the comment that it did take a stance and were speaking out back then.
Well, and the other thing that keeps popping up in the chat, and I know that we'll get into this a little bit more, but everybody's like, how can we support you? How can we, how can we be involved? What can we do? What can we do to help? And so I think it's really, there's tons of support here that's popping up. So I just wanted to share that with you as well. Jackie, did you want to speak to support or how to interact with the Pride SMC Club or?
So I think one of the things that we have to look through here is that, what's going on with the students and on campus is different from us being an alumni affinity group. Our affinity is that we are LGBTQ plus positive and our allies are there to support this. We do have the beginnings of a group that's separate from the Facebook page. That was just one of the ways that we got started. I have a couple of slides here. I want to just share one of them with you right now. And I think it will help a bit. Hearing from one of the board members is really great, but we also wanted to have sort of a public service announcement here that if you would like to contact us and you need some support, we have an email address, pridesmcalumgroup@gmail.com. And there's also the group called PFLAG, which is Parents and Friends of Lesbian and Gays, that you could also connect with. And the Trevor Project is really a really great resource for those who are questioning about coming out. The student group at St. Mary's is the SAGE, the Sexuality and Gender Equity Group. And you can see them located online from the St. Mary's website. One thing for those of you who were interested in becoming a member, there is a QR code right there. If you just take your camera, your cell phone, you can just follow that, and it will take you to our the application form to become a member. We will keep that information within ourselves as a group. As we've been talking before, there still is some negativity that is directed at those of us, and some of us might not be ready to come out or maybe just don't really want to be publicly associated. So we will not reveal any members of the organization except what is really expected from being an affinity group. We also have the Facebook page, which is the facebook.com groups Pride SMC, and that also is a private group. So if you're a member of that, and you don't have to be a member of the Facebook page in order to become a member of our group. I saw somebody had a concern about that. A couple of things is that we really are directing ourselves moving forward as an affinity group. We have our bylaws in development, and we hope that we can engage other alums through understanding. And we also want to make sure that we can help people understand why this is important to have diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as a presence on campus. And that really goes a long way to help acknowledge students who feel differently and know that they belong, and we would like to be able to support them. If there's any more questions, I'm happy to talk about it.
I also just want to say, so if you want to get more involved, we would love to have anybody, like, please reach out to us if you want to be added to like the mailing list as we're continuing to develop. There's so many ideas that we've had together, and I think there's so many stories too of alum that these are, we just have 4 stories here, but there are so many stories that should be shared as well. And so please contact us, and we can figure out over time all of the ways that people can get involved, share their story, and also make a positive impact on campus and the current students too. So.
I was joking before about being the alumna from the last millennium, but when we were going around at Reunion 2019 and handing out little flyers and buttons, there were a few women who approached me and said, how come you didn't ask us? So we know we are not alone, and we know that there are others, and we want to be able to support not only the students, but our fellow alums, as well as the faculty and staff, as well as administration at the college, and to do what we can, be representative and help to provide a positive environment for students.
Also, another thing is that I see someone put a comment, and I think I appreciate that you just put this comment. I think that when we were talking, that maybe we are working on becoming more inclusive in our language, but also just in general, the trans community on campus and alums have often had a really difficult experience compared to the experience of someone like myself that could pass as a straight ally and is cisgender. And so I think that we want to make sure that everybody is feeling included and is recognized, and that everyone's story and experiences is recognized, and that everyone's identity is valid. And so please feel free. We right now are all kind of not very diverse even on the board, and so please feel free to reach out, because I think that we want to have more stories and more participation from people of all identities.
Yeah, and like, to speak from my experience, so hi, I'm non-binary technically, so, and it is very important to include our trans fellow alum and students, because they are a part of the story, and going forward, even helping the school sort of reconcile the traditional women's college with the concept of gender diversity. And so being able to speak to that and get those stories and sort of articulate why it's important to include the trans voices and include trans students, it's definitely a paramount.
Thank you, ladies. I want to make sure that there was a comment about, you know, how maybe the Pride group and campus ministry are interfacing. And there was an incredible article written a couple days ago, or yesterday actually, about how having this center at St. Mary's is really laying out the future and what it means and how welcoming this is. And that's sort of in collaboration with, you know, the evolving, you know, culture of our world. And it does sort of address the question of the Catholic tradition. So if anybody would like a link to that article, please let us know. And you can also put your email address in the chat if you want to be contacted, and we can get your information to the officers of Pride SMC. And what a wonderful evening this has been. Thank you. I just want to thank all of you so much for being here with us. I want to thank the Alumni Association Board of Directors for providing this wonderful opportunity to share about the path to Pride SMC to this alumni community. Today, there are over 140 members of the Pride SMC Facebook group, and that number will continue to grow. Thank you, Pride SMC, for being here tonight and sharing so vulnerably and authentically.
Thank you, Kristen, and to the rest of the panel. We appreciate you so much. On behalf of the Alumni Association Board of Directors, I want to thank each and every one of you for sharing tonight. We appreciate the opportunity for us to learn and grow through the shared experiences like these. And we're proud to have you as our first official affinity group. A few people asked, what is an affinity group? Well, it's a formalized structure of alumni within a particular interest, major, career, ethnic group. So I know you guys mentioned, Dr. Porter, if you're a math major, obviously best major on campus, right? You know, maybe you want to start an affinity group, that's the next step. If you have any other interests, that information on that can all be found on our website, alumni.stmarys.edu. And we will also have some upcoming events, definitely in the spring, for more SMC talks. So check your emails. We have been creating Facebook events, and we keep all of our events live at stmarys.edu, the alumni site. Thanks everyone for attending, and enjoy the rest of your week.